There's a silent battle she's been fighting, one you'll never see on her social media and one she'll never confess to her friends. Deep down, she wants to pick up the phone, type that message, and break the silence between you. But every time she comes close, pride slams the door shut. It's a strange, painful prison she's trapped in, built not from steel, but from ego. And here's the truth. The longer she waits, the heavier that door becomes. Byung-Chul Han, one of today's most discussed modern philosophers, speaks of an era where connection is easy, yet intimacy is rare, where people would rather suffer in quiet dignity than risk the vulnerability of reaching out. In his lens, pride isn't just personal, it's a cultural symptom. We live in a performance-driven society, and in that society, admitting you miss someone feels like losing a game you didn't even agree to play. But what she doesn't realize is this. The longer she chooses pride over peace, the more she feeds a cycle that leaves her emotionally starved. And whether you know it or not, she's thinking about you far more than you think. Today, we're going deep, beyond the usual relationship games, into the psychology of her silence, the true cost of her ego, and why, despite every urge to reach out, she still won't press send. Part 1. The Silent Urge. Every night when the world slows down and distractions fade, her mind wanders to you. She remembers the small details, the way you said certain things, the way you didn't chase, when she pulled away, and the calm way you seemed to accept her absence. That calmness, ironically, is what unsettles her. Byung-Chul Han would call this the discomfort of the unresponsive other. In a time where everyone is supposed to be instantly reachable, your silence stands out like a glitch in the system. She expects you to respond, to give in, to re-engage. But you haven't. And that lack of reaction forces her into self-reflection, something prideful people hate. The truth is, she feels the itch to connect. But here's the twist. Her pride isn't just about ego, it's about protecting an image. Reaching out would mean admitting she misjudged you, that maybe she acted out of impulse or insecurity, and that perhaps you were right to walk away. This is a bitter pill for anyone to swallow, especially someone who's used to having men crawl back. She might even open your chat window, type a few words, then delete them. You'll never see these aborted attempts. She'll replay conversations in her head, trying to convince herself she doesn't need closure. But in truth, every unsent message adds weight to her regret. Her inner dialogue sounds something like, if he really cared, he'd reach out first. But deep down, she knows the unspoken reality. If she cared enough, she'd swallow her pride. This is where the war begins, not between you and her, but between her longing and her image of self-control. And as Byung-Chul Han reminds us, in our hyper-competitive emotional landscape, image often wins over authenticity, but only for a while. Part 2. Pride as a prison. Pride feels like power, but in reality, it's a cage, and she's the one holding the key. When she distances herself, she convinces her mind that she's preserving dignity, but dignity built on denial is fragile. It doesn't hold up under the weight of real emotions. Byung-Chul Han warns about the danger of what he calls the transparency paradox. In a world obsessed with openness, people hide more than ever. She might post selfies, cryptic quotes, or happy moments online, but none of them reveal the truth, that every smile hides the shadow of missing you. The problem with pride is that it trades short-term satisfaction for long-term emptiness. She may win today's emotional battle by not texting you, but every day she delays, the emotional distance grows, and so does the risk that you'll move on entirely. And here's the part that truly terrifies her. If you do move on without her, she'll have to face the truth that her pride didn't protect her. It destroyed her chance at reconciliation, but she can't say this out loud, because to her, vulnerability feels like weakness. This is the core of the modern emotional crisis Byung-Chul Han points out. People would rather live in the illusion of strength than admit they're hurting. You see, pride doesn't just keep her from reaching out. It keeps her from growing. It locks her in a pattern where she mistakes silence for strength, when in reality, silence is slowly erasing the bond you once had. The irony is painful. By not risking a small loss of face today, she risks losing something far greater tomorrow. Part 3. The fear of losing. Control for her, control is everything. It's not just about winning arguments or getting the last word. It's about shaping how she's seen by others. In her mind, the person who reaches out first loses leverage, and she's terrified of being the one who loses. Byung-Chul Han often writes about the achievement society, where people live as though they are brands constantly managing their image. In this space, emotions are filtered through calculation. Every word, every action is weighed not for sincerity but for strategic impact. That's exactly what's happening in her mind. If she texts you, she's breaking the illusion that she's unfazed by your absence. She's revealing that you still occupy mental real estate, and this terrifies her because she has built her sense of power on the assumption that you are the one missing her, not the other way around. This fear of losing control often overrides the desire for real connection. It's why she might watch your social media silently, linger over old photos, or listen to songs that remind her of you, yet never type your name in a message. She prefers to suffer quietly than risk being seen as the weaker one. But here's the danger. By clinging to control, she loses authenticity. Her connection to you becomes less about feelings and more about strategy. And the longer she plays this game, the less she remembers what it feels like to be open, honest, and free of calculation. In her attempt to stay in power, she's slowly losing the very thing she's trying to protect: her ability to love without fear. Part 4. The mirror effect. One of the reasons your silence bothers her so much is because it reflects her own behavior back at her. She may have distanced herself from you thinking she could provoke a reaction, but instead, you mirrored her distance, and this unsettles her deeply. Byung-Chul Han speaks about the exhaustion of sameness, where people can't escape their own reflection in the digital age. In her case, you've become a mirror to her pride. She sees her own avoidance in your lack of pursuit. And suddenly it's not just about you ignoring her, it's about her realizing she's been doing the exact same thing. This realization is uncomfortable because it forces her to confront the fact that her silence might not be strength. It might be weakness. If she wanted to reconnect, the obvious solution is to simply reach out. But that would mean breaking the very rules she has set for herself. Instead, she tries to justify it. He must not care enough. If he really missed me, he'd call. These statements protect her pride, but they also shield her from the truth, that she's just as capable of making the first move, yet chooses not to. The mirror effect is powerful because it removes her ability to blame you without also blaming herself. And for someone who thrives on control, that's a dangerous place to be. Part 5. The Emotional Economy in Byung-Chul. Han's analysis of modern relationships, love often operates like a market. People trade attention, affection, and validation like currency. Whoever gives more is seen as having less value. Whoever gives less is perceived as holding more power. She understands this economy all too well, even if she's never put it into words. Reaching out to you feels like spending emotional currency. And in her mind, the person who spends first ends up at a disadvantage. But here's the irony. While she hoards her emotional currency, it loses value. Every day she doesn't spend it, the bond between you weakens. And unlike money, emotional connections don't accrue interest, they expire. This is the tragic flaw in her strategy. She thinks she's preserving value by withholding when in reality, she's devaluing herself in your eyes. Because from your perspective, if she truly cared, nothing, not pride, not fear, would stop her from closing the gap. Byung-Chul Han warns about the danger of turning relationships into transactions. Once you start measuring love in terms of cost and gain, you stop experiencing it as something alive. And that's what's happening here. Her feelings are still there, but they're locked away in a vault she refuses to open. The longer she waits, the more she risks discovering that you've moved on. Not because you wanted to, but because she gave you no reason to stay emotionally invested. Part 6. The erosion of certainty. At first, she was sure you'd break the silence. She counted on it. In her mind, you were predictable, just another man who couldn't handle distance. But as the days passed, something shifted. Her certainty began to erode. Byung-Chul Han speaks about the anxiety of uncertainty in relationships, how people crave predictable responses because unpredictability forces them to confront their own insecurities. Your calm silence has done exactly that. It has shaken her confidence in her own desirability. She starts to ask herself dangerous questions. Has he really moved on? What if he's happier without me? Did I overestimate my place in his life? These thoughts are like small cracks in the wall of her pride. At first, she tries to patch them with distractions, nights out, casual attention from others, social media validation, but deep down, those cracks keep widening, and here's where your absence becomes more powerful than any words you could say. Because when she starts doubting her own importance to you, her pride is no longer a shield. It's a weight. The more she clings to it, the more she feels it pulling her down into loneliness. Part 7. The point of no return. There comes a moment when the silence between two people becomes more than just a pause. It becomes a new reality. And she's starting to sense that moment approaching. Byung-Chul Han warns that relationships, like all living things, have a threshold. If they're starved of genuine contact for too long, they wither. Once they cross that invisible line, no amount of effort can fully restore them to what they were. She knows this, even if she won't admit it. She feels the gap growing wider, the connection fading. And yet, pride still tells her, wait, don't be the first to break. But here's the tragedy. Every day she waits, she moves closer to that point of no return. Soon, reaching out won't just be difficult, it will be irrelevant. Because you will have already rewritten your life without her in it. And when that day comes, her pride will not feel like victory. It will feel like loss. Ending Byung-Chul Han once wrote that in our hyper-connected age, true closeness is rare, because people hide behind curated versions of themselves. Pride is one of those masks. It looks strong from the outside, but inside it hides fear, regret, and longing. She wants to reach out. She wants to hear your voice, see your name light up her phone, but her pride stops her. And maybe one day she'll realize that pride didn't protect her. It only robbed her of the connection she truly wanted. For you, the lesson is clear. Never beg for what someone is too proud to give. Because love that can't overcome ego isn't love, it's performance, and you deserve more than an act, so stay silent, stay grounded, and let her learn that pride may keep her company, but it will never keep her warm.